right. I think I'm live. Doesn't look like it though, does it? There we go. All right. Bear with me as we work through technical details. Hello. Hello. Welcome to Miss Peepers Reading Corner. I am Katrina, aka Ms. Peepers. Let's talk about books. I am going to talk about today the Booktuber Bio tag. So if you missed it last week, I'm trying something new, doing my videos live instead of having to edit them, and I realized that just with my full-time job and other stuff going on in the world and in my brain, it's just easier to do it this way. And I really liked doing it last week, so we're going to keep this going. So I don't have any real reading updates. I'm still in the middle of all the books that I was in the middle of last week. So we're just going to jump straight into the Booktuber Bio tag, which was created by Jessica's Library Card. So please check out her channel. And this is a really fun tag that I've seen a number of people now around Booktube doing. So let's jump right in. The first question is a simple one, maybe. It is, who are you? So who am I? Well, I'm Katrina, aka Miss Peepers, as I said before. I don't know if you can see my cat. Kitty visit. Oh, she's a big kitty. Oh, okay, sorry. Miss Sylvie is visiting. I'll put her back down. Sorry, she not a huge fan of that apparently. So I love my cats. And so who am I? I am a crafter, and I love crafting with my cats. I love playing video games with my cats. I work remotely with my cats, and I like resting and snoozing with my cats, and watching TV with my cats, and of course reading and drinking tea with my cats. I'm a cat mom. You may have noticed, if you've been around this channel, I'm sure you have seen my cats come in and out of my videos from time to time. Love my little fur babies. I also am a wife. I have a husband. Mr. Peepers is real, but I protect his privacy. He prefers not to be showcased on my channel, which I totally respect. And yeah, and these are the things that I love that make up me. I do have an office job outside of Booktube that I try to keep those two worlds separate as much as possible, because I need that division in my life, not to the degree of, say, Severance, which is one of the shows that I enjoy watching, but rather just they're two separate worlds, and we want to keep them separate. Also, I never want to give the impression that I'm in any way representing my employer through all of this. This is all me and only me. So that is Katrina, aka Miss Peepers. In a nutshell, cats. How long have I been on Booktube? I've been on Booktube for a full year. And some change, honestly. I think about 14 months, 15 months. And I started this on a bit of a whim. All right, looks like this is not fully showing up, so apologies. I joined kind of on a whim here. I actually been thinking about it for a long time. Finally, I made myself do it, and I'm so glad I did, because I've really enjoyed this experience of being on Booktube. So, the real questions: what kind of books do you love to read, and has Booktube had an effect on what you read? So, second question first, absolutely. Booktube has had an effect on what I read, primarily because through Booktube I have found, learned about authors, about books, about genres even, that I did not know about before or would not have considered reading before. And by hearing other people talk about the books that they love, sometimes I'm thinking, oh, that could be interesting, I'll give it a try. Other times it's more, I'm glad you liked it, and that's cool. We don't have to like the same things. But so it hasn't had an effect on what I read in that way, in that it's just broadened my horizons, if you will, broaden my knowledge of what kinds of books are out there, because there are so many. No one can know about every book that exists, and sadly no one can read all the books that have been written, so that's unfortunate. But we just do what we can. As far as what kinds of books I love to read, I like variety, honestly. I like reading a lot of different types of books. I tend, right now, I tend towards dystopian sci-fi, no reason. But I've always enjoyed dystopian style books. I've always enjoyed, those really well written sci-fi or fantasy or futuristic books that really delve into what it means to be human and and how people behave and how organizations and systems affect the lives of the individual. And there's so much that is out of our control, and then so much that we can control and choose not to for whatever reason, or the choices that we make. So I've always found that really, really interesting. But really, I'll read just about anything, or try just about any genre. We talked about that last week in the Snobometer tag. But yeah, I tend towards those kinds of books, not the super dark, like dark romance or anything along those lines. That's not really my jam. Though I do enjoy some horror from time to time. So it's all about that balance of showing I guess having it's the right balance of the amount of darkness with a little glimmer of hope, and just that how humanity prevails ultimately through things, or in some cases doesn't. So on that downer, let's go to the next question. What do you enjoy about making booktube videos? I mean, for me, this answer is very simple. It's the books. I love having a place to discuss books. I love having building community with other booktubers and with people in the comments, and with just anyone who will talk about books with me. I often find that, and I think a lot of people find this, that in person, the people you know in person don't always read the same books you do. At least that's my experience, and I think that's true of a lot of people. And so going to the internet, you have a wider pool of people and you're more likely to run into someone who who's read something that you've read, or that loved something that you loved, or disagreed with you on a book, and you can talk about that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like-minded people in that way, like-minded in that we all love books, but not necessarily the same books. So that's what I love, and just having an outlet to say, this thing has been in my head about this book, and I want to tell somebody. So I come here and tell somebody. And hopefully my video gets to someone who also wants to talk about that book, or has been thinking about that book, or maybe has been considering reading that book, and now they know a little bit more about it and they can make an informed decision. So I do very much love that. But what do you not enjoy about making booktube videos? I feel like I gave a little spoiler of this at the beginning, but it's the editing. I know there are people in the world who love editing videos. I'm not one of them. I've learned to do it. I can do it. I'm certainly not like the best editor of videos in the world or anything like that, but I can make it work. But I find it often very tedious. I find that when I'm speaking live like this, I have a lot fewer pauses, a lot fewer repetitions. When I'm filming, but I know that I can go back and edit it, I find myself saying the same sentence several times in a row, only to choose the first one when I go to edit, because the first one sounded fine, but in the moment it didn't seem like it did, or leaving these big gaps of time where I stop and I think about something. And so I have a lot of footage of me just going, well, I try to think about what I'm saying next. And so something like this feels more like a conversation, or it feels more like a presentation. And so I know that I won't have to edit it later. I also know that I technically could edit it later, but I know I won't. And so here we are. What you get is what you get. And so that gives me a little bit more of an incentive to just say it once, say it as right as possible the first time, and if it's not quite right or not quite perfect, we move on and we go to the next thing. So yeah, editing is the big thing that I do not like about making videos. And then what video on your channel are you the most proud of? So this is a simple one. For me, it's my first one. Not because it was a good video, it's really not, but because I did it. And when I first started on my channel, I actually took an online class about making YouTube videos, like starting a YouTube channel. And I'm not going to say through whom because I'm not giving them a free sponsorship, but I took that class, and the advice of the instructor was once you've decided what your channel is going to be about, make your first video, shoot it, don't edit it, don't look at it, don't think about it, just upload it immediately. Rip off the band-aid, get that first video out there, and you can delete it later, but get it out there, because when you have a brand new channel, first of all, it's very difficult for people to find you if you've only made one video, if you've only posted one video, especially if you haven't told anybody that you're doing this. And so early on in the channel, like, you're not going to be in anyone's algorithm because it's literally your first video. And so it's actually kind of freeing to do that. So I left it out there, even though I know it's not a great video, and I'm a little bit afraid to watch it again. Maybe when I hit like the 3 or 5 year mark, I'll go back to my first video and we can do one of those cringy, like, oh, react to my first videos. But it got me started. And so that is why I'm the most proud of it, because I did it, because I stepped up, I did the scary thing, and this is really scary. Not as much as it was a year and some change ago, but that first video, I'm sure you can tell I'm nervous. I'm sure you can tell that I'm like, I'm really like spun up in that video, but I did it. I also, as I was putting this together, realized that of the stack of books that I said in that first video that I was going to read last year, I finished one of them, Don Quixote, that's the one on the top, and of that stack in the background there. And then the second one, Middlemarch, I started it, but I DNF'd it because I did not like it. Middlemarch is a very divisive book. I've noticed people either love or hate it. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of in between on that one. I couldn't get through it. It just was not for me. But if you love Middlemarch, I'm happy for you, because there's a lot of book there to love. And I really wish I did, but I don't. And then the other 3 I didn't get, or 4? The other 4 I didn't get to. So, you know, one day, they're still in my collection. One day I'll read them. But yeah, and that's one of my early experiences of declaring a TBR, a to be read list, and knowing that actually TBRs are not my thing. I don't stick to them, so declaring them doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. Is there anything you wish was different about Booktube? That's an interesting question, because yes, but I think I have a picture on this one. Yeah, I have our Deadpool and Wolverine reference here. There are things I wish were different about Booktube, and also just things I wish were different about social media as a whole. I don't think that's so some of the things are social media more broadly. It's not just a Booktube specific thing, but for me, for social media, what I wish were different is that the way the algorithm works to bring videos to people who maybe haven't seen your channel before, the way the algorithm works is that it feeds on strong emotions. So if I were to say, I think the title of this video is something like the Booktuber Bio tag, but if I put something in there that had a big emotion in it, I'd probably get more views, but it might also be disingenuous. You know, it might also be a little bit clickbaity, a little bit deceptive. So it's interesting because viewers are very anti-clickbait, but also clickbaity type titles get clicks. So it's a fine balance. And so I wish that were different about social media just generally. And then booktube more specifically, there's a lot to like about booktube. I will say though that there tends to be a lot of pressure. I see booktubers put a lot of pressure on themselves, and I've to the point at which I've become kind of hyper aware of it and trying not to do that to myself, both to create content but also to read ridiculous amounts of books. And here's the thing: if you read 300 books a year and you love reading 300 books a year and that fulfills you and makes you happy and you're retaining them and you're enjoying them, then go forth and be your best self. But I think a lot of people don't have the time for that. A lot of people don't have the energy or don't really want to do that, but then feel like they have to. And so I see a lot of that, and it makes me a little sad because you have to, if you have a booktube channel, you have to have something bookish to talk about in order to have content. But at the same time, if you're just like flying through books that you would otherwise without a channel take your time reading, or maybe even stop reading. I see a lot of people push through books that they don't want to finish. They clearly don't want to finish reading because they've got to have a video, they've got to have a channel. And if that comes off as judgmental, I don't mean it to. More than I'm aware of it, so that I don't fall into that trap. I'm trying not to fall into that trap myself. But I didn't make a video for like 5 weeks. I didn't make any videos for like 5 weeks, last month. And I felt really bad about that. I felt guilty. I'm like, wait a minute, I have 170 subscribers. Thank you if you are one of them. But so it's not like I'm letting thousands or millions of people down, but at the same time, I feel like I'm letting people down or losing track of, again, that algorithm. When you don't post as much, you don't get as much traffic. YouTube pushes you down in the mysterious back end system. And so it is a bit of a challenge to get stuff out there. But so I don't like that. And so that's something I wish were different about booktube, that I wish it were really more of a discussion about books and less of a let me tell you the 16 books I read this month, just because I felt like I had to read 16 books because for you, the viewer, if that makes sense. And I'm sure there are booktubers out there who do that and because they want to and not because they feel like they have to. And I have no problem with that. If you're doing what you want to do, and I can't necessarily tell the difference, of who's who. But it's something to think about. If you have a booktube channel and you find yourself doing that for the sake of it, maybe ask yourself why. Why are you doing that? And not to say that it's a bad thing, but is that what you want to do? Is that giving you your best content? I don't know. It's worth examining those things every once in a while, regardless of what you're doing. So I think I've said enough about that one. All right, 3 books you've reviewed on your channel that represent you as a reader. So if you've been around since the beginning, this first book will not surprise you, and that is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And when I went back to pull the thumbnails of these books from the review, first of all, this was one of the thumbnails into which I put a lot of effort into just staging it and getting the great picture. And I have since been a little more, I'm going to say efficient, others might say lazy, in building my thumbnails, but I was very proud of this, like burning a little bit of paper in a dish so they could get that flame. And I also realized that I was absolutely going to start a series called Miss Peepers' Favorite Books, and so I made this video and then never made another one. So maybe I'll bring that back up. I'm glad I did this. But Fahrenheit 451, if you don't know, is a book about specifically burning books, a governmental system that has outlawed written material to the point at which firefighters, instead of putting out fires, set them. They collect books and burn them. And so we follow a firefighter who comes into contact with some people who are fighting against that regime, if you will, and he's rethinking the way that he views his place in society and his job and books and just what literature and what stories mean to people. And so I love that book so much. It is a short and sweet one. It is an easy read. If you're looking for dystopian fiction, and yeah, so that's definitely one that I keep coming back to again and again because I just love that book so much. Second one is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. And I picked this one because it's one that I grew up with. It's a banned book, a frequently banned book. And of course I made a video about it. And it's interesting to me because it is in many ways a countercultural book, but also doesn't really feel like one to me. When I read it, I'm thinking, oh, this is a coming of age story about this girl Margaret, and she's going through some stuff. She's learning to become she's like moving into teenagehood, like moving through puberty, and just trying to figure out what all of these new sensations and thoughts and experiences are, and she's seeing boys for the first time, like differently than she did before, and that kind of thing, and but it also just ticks people off so much, because it mentions periods, it mentions puberty, it mentions sex, and there's a lot in there about religion, and Margaret questions her lifestyle, her life. She questions the culture around her. She questions religion, and religious options, and she really just wants to get her period so she can be like the other girls that are around her, and it just feels so like real to me, and so and a lot of those things I remember reading it when I was growing up, and I reread it recently last year for the banned book series, and I just really it just feels close to home to me. Also, Judy Blume, I've seen her in a few like interviews and presentations, and she just seems like an awesome person when you see her presenting, when you see her talking about things. So if you have not seen that, definitely hit the internet and check her out, because she seems like a great lady. And then finally, Cat Plus Gamer. So this is a graphic novel about a woman who is single, and she loves video games, and she's got a whole life built around going to work so she can make money, so she can get more video games, buy more stuff, consoles, collectibles, all of those things. And then one day she adopts a kitten on a whim, and that not realizing just how much a kitten is going to change her entire life. And the kitten, of course, brings chaos, because that's what kittens do, but also brings a lot of joy and love to her household. And you see in the thumbnail my cat Penny, who didn't really pose for the thumbnail in the way that I was hoping. I could get her to just like curl up next to the book, or just sit down, or be still for a moment. And so when I made the thumbnail, I just ended up picking the slideshow basically from that photo shoot, because there wasn't like one really good picture, but I was putting treats down trying to get her to get in the frame, and it sort of worked. But I think it worked out. And that's sort of the ultimate lesson of having cats, is that you've got to roll with the chaos sometimes. And cats are really good at instructing you on boundaries. So if you need help learning how to set your own boundaries, having a cat in your life, whether in your home or a friend's cat or family member's cat, or wherever that you can interact with, you can really see how they draw a line. This is what I'm comfortable with, and this is what I'm not. And that's a good lesson for all of us. And they just bring so much joy and love. All right, 3 booktubers whose content inspires you. This is always a fun one, because I certainly watched Booktube before I became a booktuber, and there are a lot of booktubers that I follow and really enjoy, but I'll stick with 3. So the first one, in no particular order, the first one is Leandra the TBR0. So I really just love Leandra's channel. She has a nice calm vibe. She is also just very friendly in her comment section. if you join her Patreon, which I have, and this is not sponsored, but she's very, like, just very warm and welcoming and friendly with her patrons and just with the people in her chat, and she's just really nice. She's just a really nice person. And I enjoy her content a lot because she brings in her own mix of sharing her opinions about books, and she is not afraid to share her opinion about books. She also promotes other booktubers quite a bit, which I think is really great, just to see that, you know, spreading the wealth around a little bit. And then also she brings her own quirkiness, and just you can see her personality in her videos. So I love that. Noteworthy Fiction. So Nicole over at Noteworthy Fiction. Nicole is just a fantastic presenter, and she speaks very intellectually about the books that she reads, and she also reads a lot of classics, which I enjoy, but also some science fiction, and she reads some other things as well. But she has this, she tends to read really big books, which I find inspiring because I often don't have the fortitude to read. I certainly don't have the fortitude to read as many big books as she does, but she always reads huge books, and she sets herself a TBR at the beginning of every month of thousands of pages, and she clearly has more reading time than I do. So good for her. But she gets through it. She does read all of that, and really takes away, like, you can tell that when she talks about the books that she's read, that she's not just flying through and coming up with a couple of high-level comments, but she's actually delving into what the book is about, what she thought about it, what she liked, what she didn't like, what themes she saw, and that kind of thing. So lovely, wonderful channel. And then finally, Books I'm Not Reading. This is Kelly over at Books I'm Not Reading. She's another kind of quirky, calm, actually they all are very calming presences on the internet, which I find myself leaning more towards cozy vibes in general. So all three of these ladies are like that. But Kelly has a really, she has a really creative approach to a lot of the books that she's read, or the content that she makes. She has a series where she does like a little unboxing, but instead of ordering like a book crate or something along those lines, she makes her own and then puts a theme on it. So she's got a number of videos about that are a lot of fun, and it just so she has a mix of, like, she's not afraid to get silly sometimes, but then she also is very, you know, speaks very seriously about the books that she reads, and you can tell that she just loves to read. Her husband also has a channel where he posts less frequently than she does, but they cross over on each other's channels. It's so nice to see a reading couple online as well. And she's just, again, I think for me, the people on YouTube that I follow the most, whether they're booktubers or have other styles of content, typically are people that I feel like if we met in real life, I would want to be friends with them. And I'm not talking about building like a parasocial relationship or anything like that, but just like, yeah, I think we would get along. I think we could hang out and it would be a good time. And so with all three of these ladies, I feel that way, and as well as pretty much everyone I follow on YouTube for any length of time. So definitely check out these three channels if you don't know them already. Now, three more booktubers. So, and I like this aspect of it, the idea of just touting other people's booktube channels, although I also find it kind of funny because I definitely do not have a big channel myself. So, but if I can help somebody else in some way, that's amazing. I love it. So I looked for, amongst the people I follow, channels that have a smaller number of subscribers, although none of them are as small as my channel, but that's okay, we'll get there. I think they're also all much better at social media than I am in general. But anyway, so three more booktubers to check out. So the Book Hermit, I think the Book Hermit started about the same time I did, sometime last year, towards the beginning of last year, if I remember correctly. They are definitely better at collecting viewers than I am, which is fine. But they're a really fun channel, and Hermie, if you're watching, your theme song gets stuck in my head like a lot, so which I think is the mark of a good theme song. But the Book Hermit does a number of fun videos that are a mix of reviews and book discussions, but also sometimes talks about mental health and what's going on in their life, and they do live streams and reading sprints and things like that. So there's a fairly wide variety of content on their channel, and so I definitely recommend that. Please read your books. So this is more so this channel is a little bit more of a review style channel, so a little bit more consistent is the I guess consistent is the right word, but that doesn't mean the other channels are not consistent, but more of a standard style that he's cultivated of the different videos that he does. So a lot of I want to talk about this book. I'm going to talk about this book. So series of reviews, and he just has a really interesting viewpoint on different books, and a deadpan sense of humor from time to time, and it's just a really this is a really fun channel to watch. There we go. We're getting towards the end. My words are starting to fail me. The third channel that I recommend is Heather Reads. Heather also does a lot of reviews of like a single book reviews, and I mentioned this for both of these channels, and also for Kelly does this a fair amount too, in books I'm not reading, but the video that is dedicated to one book is something that I see a bit on Booktube, but not a ton. A lot of booktubers will, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, but a lot of booktubers will say, okay, here are the books that I read this month, let me tell you about all of them in one video. And so it's just a different style to talk about one book per video, and I've done both. I'll be perfectly honest. I'm played with different styles and different formats. But anyway, Heather does single book reviews. She's also got a series where she is reading Middlemarch. She likes Middlemarch, which unlike yours truly, but she's got a series where she's reading Middlemarch very deeply and talking about it in segments. She also does some lifestyle content and some different things in there. She calls them sidelines, and each video is just really well thought out and very interesting. So definitely check out these three booktubers as well. And that, friends, is the end of the Booktube Bio tag. So I have linked all of the channels that I talked about, including Jessica's Library Card, the creator of this tag. I've linked them all in my description, so if there's anyone you haven't heard of that I talked about, please check them out, and please like and subscribe. I'm really bad at remembering to say, please like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want more. I don't know why, I just don't think about it. I'm not good at social media, and let me know also in the comments if you watch this, what your thoughts are on this kind of format. As I finish books, some of these videos are going to be, or live shows are going to be of me talking about the book that I read. Yeah, and you're welcome to join. So I hope everyone has an amazing rest of the day, however much day you have left, and I will see you in the next one, and I hope that you, above all, keep reading. Now we're going to take a really long time to click on the outro button. Bye!